Welcome to another baking session. We're going to make a traditional Edwardian bun. Basically it's a Suffolk bun. Actually I seem to be making quite a few things from Suffolk at the moment. Probably won't notice because of the order in which I'll put them out, but this again is a traditional Edwardian dish, bake if you like. It's a bun that comes from Suffolk and was traditionally made to eat on St Edmund's Day, which is the 20th of November. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about St Edmund's Day as we go along. Okay, but obviously it's from Suffolk. So for this recipe, you're going to want some plain flour, 400 grams of plain flour, 150 grams of rice flour. Now this isn't the sticky rice flour that you'd use for making sushi. This is just rice flour. Okay, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 200 grams of softened butter, 40 grams of caraway seeds. Now the caraway seeds are going to add a slight aniseed flavour. So if you don't like aniseed, you probably won't like these, right? 3 tablespoons of honey, up to about a tablespoon of milk, but that's more for just getting the dough to the right consistency, and 2 beaten eggs. Now we're going to add 40 grams of currants. They're optional, okay. I was going to leave them out, but I had some knocking about going spare, so I thought I'd chuck them in, okay. And then you're going to want some optional, well not really optional, you're going to want some more honey for when the buns are finished to drizzle on the top. So these are, if you like, sticky buns. So we're going to start by sifting our flour into the bowl. So I've got about half the plain flour in, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rice flour in there as well. So just basically out to get it mixed in together. Okay. This thing seems to stick for a bit, and then suddenly it gets going. So, like I say, I'm giving you the rest of the ingredients. Now, St Edmund's Day. Now, St Edmund was also known as St Edmund the Martyr, and he was, well, actually, Edmund is Old English. Ed or aid meant prosperity or wealth, and mund meant protector. He died about 869 or 870 AD approximately, okay, and he was the king of East Anglia, okay, hence the fact that it's sort of Suffolk nowadays. This was part of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom, okay. Did this to me yesterday, jammed up, nothing comes out, and then suddenly all just started working fine. I don't know what's going on with it. Now, he was actually killed. Now, if you've been watching, or had watched, it's been off a while now, hasn't it, the Viking series, about old Ragnarsson. Although Ragnar's a bit of a mythical character, some of the other characters in there were actual Vikings that were known about, although obviously the Viking stories all get made up. Although there's elements of it's true. Old Edmund was killed by the Danes. He was killed by none other than Ubbe, Ragnarsson, and Ivar the Boneless, which won't mean anything if you haven't watched Vikings, but there you go. Now, he was such an important king, such an important person, he was actually made the patron saint of England. But wait a minute, St George is the patron saint, but he didn't used to be. St Edmund was. However, Edward III decided to replace him with a foreign, because St George wasn't British, wasn't English, probably Turkish. He replaced St Edmund with George. I'm going to give this a bit of a belt, I think, because it's not working. So hence, on the date or the anniversary of his death, they celebrated by having these Suffolk buns. So that's got the flour in there. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take that butter and we're just going to rub that butter into there until it resembles breadcrumbs. Not quite sure why we bother sifting the flour. Normally you're doing that to get it nice and light and floury, because it feels nice and light and floury, and then we're going to sit there and smack it all together again with butter, aren't we? But anyway, just going to get this all mixed in, like I say, till it's all breadcrumby, and then we'll be adding most of the rest of the other ingredients. Just remembered, of course, you need to make sure you've added in your baking powder with your flours. Okay, so I'm just going to give that in a nice little mix through together, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to mix into that the sugar, caster sugar, the caraway seeds, and if you're going to put currants into it, the currants. I debated about splitting the mixture in half and putting currants in half and leaving the other half plain, but there's going to be a bit of faffing around because we're not going to add the eggs in until we've added everything else. So I decided to go for the currants anyway. So in goes the sugar, caraway seeds and the currants, and all we're going to do is we're just going to give this a bit of a mix around together. Now obviously once we start adding in the egg and mixing that all in, that will give it another good mix, but we'll just try and give it a bit of a mix at this stage. So I think, I can't remember if I said it's 2 eggs, which we're just going to lightly beat, and then we're going to, so there we go, all cut, ready to go in the oven, 200 for about 15 to 20 minutes. So catch them when they're done. So these are St Edmunds, but for a minute there I thought it was Alfred's Great, because my bloody oven's temperature's playing up again, and when I whipped these out after 15 minutes, the first lot, they were a bit well done. So my last little batch I've just taken out now. They're still quite hot, but there you go. You can see here, nice golden colour, a little bit soft on the bottom. Just going to let them cool, transfer them to the rack. I don't know if you can see them in the background, a little bit darker. Okay, they're the ones I've rescued. And what I've just been doing is trying to drizzle some of this honey. Really want a big clear honey. Okay, I've made this a bit more molten, and I'm just drizzling it over the top. It's not quite having the same effect as the as clear honey would. Unfortunately, for some reason, just couldn't seem to get hold of any clear honey. So I'm just going to coat these, let them cool a bit, transfer them on there, put a bit of honey on them, and then when they've cooled a bit more, these are best eaten warm, but are not this hot. So we'll let them cool, and then we'll just taste one. Right, this is a runt, if you like. It's the last bit of the dough that I had, so it's not quite thick enough. Caught a little bit around the edges, so it's probably going to be a little bit dry and hard than it should be. I did refer to them originally as like a sticky bun, but they're more of like a sticky scone. Scone, not scone, right? So this one is a bit overdone, as with the first batch, but so you do get that aniseedy flavour. By no means is it overpowering. Okay, if you don't like aniseed, unless you really dislike aniseed, these are fine. This one's just a bit dry. Get the sweetness from the honey, but not overpoweringly so. So there you go, your Suffolk cakes in honour of England's original patron saint, St Edmund.